So we talked about hesitation yesterday, and today we did get a little bit more pullback. It seems like we're going to find a little bit of support lower, but in the short term, bearishness. But let's take a closer look at all of the charts. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. So looking at the Fear and Greed Index, we stepped back up to a 69 from a 67, big jump there. Couple of points considering that markets were actually down on the day. You can see extreme greed still here on momentum. Strength and breadth still in fear, really haven't moved very much, even with the jumps in markets. Put call ratio hitting a very, very low level at 0.62. Probably an indicator that we've topped out. That is just about as low as it goes. Volatility flattening out in that 14.7 area. We'll look at that later. And then safe haven demand, extreme greed, as well as junk bond demand, both in extreme greed. So again, markets probably short-term top. We'll see how this plays out. Moving over to the economic calendar, basically nothing here for today, but for tomorrow we do have core and headline CPI, definitely going to be interesting at 8:30. Federal budget expected to be very, very negative here for the forecast. And then for Thursday, you do have core and headline PPI, initial jobless claims, GDP for the Eurozone, as well as Fed Chair Powell speaking at 1500. So definitely going to be interesting for the Wednesday, Thursday. We'll see if this affects markets. I'm sure it will, but how much? Moving over to Max Pain, stock price was down just a smidgen, but Max Pain still at 580 for the Friday session. And you can see here, this did flip a little bit. This was bullish for the next 2 days, and now it's a little bit bearish up until the Monday session, which is quite bullish. So we're probably going to see a little bit of falling here up until the Friday. We'll see how it plays out with the economic data that's coming out tomorrow, but recognize just a little bit of bearishness here for the next couple days. Moving over to the charts, starting off with the S&Ps, you can see we're down about $1.86, down 0.3%. Coming off of this trend line here, we were talking about that as a target. We hit it, overthrew it, thought we might see the hold and continuation, but markets did look hesitant yesterday, and then we did get a little bit of a continuation down, falling a smidgen more after hours. At this point, you should be looking for a touch of the trend line here, down in the 589.82 area, which is about $6 lower. Start to look for these gap fills. To that first gap fill here is about 1% lower, and then you can see the target just a little bit lower than that at about 1.25% lower. Then we'll see what happens at this point. So clean break here, retest. I still think it could hold in here. I don't think we're going to fill this gap back here from the Tuesday into the Wednesday, but right here definitely seems like we could see about a 1% down move. Markets were definitely hesitant, momentum flatlining here, RSI pulling back, looking for that retest of the SMA, hold that level, and then get a continuation up from there. Everything fits for about a 1.25% down move, in my opinion. And then looking at those levels a little bit closer here on the hourly chart, you can see hesitation yesterday, lower high set up here today, lower low, looking for a lower low from there, somewhere in the 592.50 area at least, bring you back to this high back here from the Wednesday, and then still looking for that gap fill somewhere around the trend line, around that 589.40 area. Momentum bearish, RSI bearish, hourly chart showing a little bit of pullbacks here to come. Moving over to the SPY Tasty charts here on the 4-hour, you can see we are very, very close to that ATR trailing stop. That's at 595.10, so we're still in bullish conditions. Broke through that 8 EMA, broke through the midline. Lowest ATR band is at that 592.28 area. That's where you would expect to find support. So pretty much the same range, and then that 589.18 area, that is your 55 EMA here on the 4-hour, waiting to see if that ends up holding up. Momentum still bearish, volume a little bit stronger here today on the selling action. So seems like this is starting to roll here a little bit more. The question is, where do we find support? Moving over to the NASDAQ here, you can see down 0.18 again, another hanging man candle, momentum stepping to bearish, RSI pulling back, still looking for a test of the SMA here. So same as the SPY really, trend support down in that 507.62 area. Once we touch there, we'll see what happens. Is it going to hold here, or is it going to pull back to that 9 EMA all the way down at 501.06? We'll see. A couple of steps here, falling a smidgen after hours, down another $1 there, actually pretty substantial. So short-term pullbacks seem to be in order. The gap fill is sitting there at 505.58, right in here, right in this trend line area as well. So we'll see how much of a pullback there is. Market's definitely starting to sell in the short term. Very extended, and you can see big gaps here. Volume vacuum through here. It'll probably move fairly quick. Get into this zone in here, see what the support is like in there. And then we'll see if it holds. push to higher highs or if it's going to break down and change structure. Obviously, the medium-term trend is still very much bullish, so I would expect support to come in at some point. And then in terms of the hourly chart, you can see the big wick rejection yesterday. We talked about it. You now have a consolidation of EMAs. It looks like it's starting to sell a little bit more. The low of the day was down around the 510 area, starting to sell a little bit more after hours. Volume was selling at the end of the session. You can see support in here, 507.50. It's probably going to fall to there a little bit more. So again, from current price, that's about 0.9, maybe 1% lower. Realistically, about 1.25. Usually it moves a little bit more than the SPY. So if the SPY is expecting a 1 to 1.25, we might see the NASDAQ pull all the way back to the 503 area. That would be about 1.6% lower. So we'll see if we get any kind of pull like that. Or maybe we just find some consolidation and hold and then push to those higher highs. But for right now, you do have to expect a little bit of weakness over the next day or two. Moving over to the Tasty charts, similar to the SPY, looking for a touch of that ATR trailing stop, which is right now at 510.74. We'll see if that zone ends up holding or not. If it breaks, your next support is that 508.28 level. That is your 34 EMA. Then we'll see if that area holds. Lowest ATR band sitting at 507.28. So right in line with those trend lines that we talked about, waiting to see if it holds in there. Momentum bearish, volume ramping on the selling action. Again, everything says short-term pullback in my opinion. We'll see if it sells a little bit more, maybe get a little catalyst out of the CPI data. That would be a little bit concerning, but for now, looks like a short-term pullback in time, waiting to find some support in here. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow, the Russell had a terrible day, down 1.75% on the day. Not super great, not what I wanted to see, but we did fill the gap. We're back into this consolidation here. It's falling just a smidgen after hours. Broke my 238.02 level. Let's look at it a little bit closer here. You can see at this point, you should be looking for support around 235.04. We'll see if that area ends up holding. Momentum stepping down, RSI stepping down, waiting to see if we get a touch of that SMA. Want to see it hold that higher low and then continue higher. Otherwise, if it craters through here, we might be looking to round trip this move a little bit, maybe all the way down to the 226 area. That would be concerning, but we'll see how it plays out. At least for now, it looks like a little bit more selling in my opinion. And then looking at the Dow, rejecting off that trend line, that group of trend lines like we talked about yesterday, down 0.82, closed on the low, more selling after hours. Momentum stepping down, RSI stepping down, probably going to fall a little bit more, maybe at least to the bottom of this here. 434.50 would make sense. Then we'll see if it gets all the way to the trend line down around 429. Either way, both of these look like a little bit more selling and markets are probably going to go with them. Are they going to accelerate? Still remains to be seen tomorrow. Moving over to the Mag 7, you can see it fell 0.4 on the day. Didn't quite get into the body of the candle on Friday, falling a little bit more after hours, about $1 lower. Momentum didn't go with it though. Didn't step down. Tomorrow, if we get more selling, it'll probably step down. Same setup here on the RSI, looking for a test of that SMA, touch the level, and then continue higher from there. If it breaks through, maybe we have some lower lows to come. Either way, this is a push up. I would expect a higher low setup and then the continuation higher. But short term, again, looks a little bit bearish. Makes sense, definitely extended. Looking for support in that 290.65 level. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft, you got Apple 100% flat to the penny. Momentum basically flat. RSI saying that this should sell a little bit more. Closing price was 224.23, which is below all the EMAs and SMAs. So I guess this is a short-term bearish move. Waiting to see what happens here. It did close below my level as well, 224.36. Falling just a little bit after hours. Looking for the touch back here. Waiting to see if this breaks structure down to the 217 area. Watching here. And then looking at Microsoft, very different thesis here. You can see we ended up holding after the down move yesterday. Let's go ahead and extend out that trend line here. So we didn't quite get to that trend line here. We did get back above this structure here. Let's go ahead and extend that out as well. Ended up positive 1.2%. Interesting. Momentum back to bullish. RSI back to bullish. So structurally at this point, there is really no structure. Waiting to see where this is going to go. We're on top of all the EMAs and SMAs. I thought we might fall. I had my alert here waiting to see what happens, but so far it has not done it. All of the breakdowns have been fake outs, rallied back up, breakout here, fake out there, back into the consolidation. So Microsoft, no clear direction yet, waiting to see where this goes. If I had to guess, I would still say bearish, but who knows at this point. Moving over to Tesla and NVIDIA. Tesla finally pulling back a little bit, 6.1% there. Momentum stepping to bearish, RSI stepping to bearish, waiting to see where this goes. After hours, down a little bit more below that 324.47 level, probably headed to 313.80. So Ended up getting the gap up, gap down. Not great. Usually that means there's a little bit more bearishness to come. Will it establish the higher low? I would guess so. And then looking at NVIDIA, this seems to be the play. Continues to be very, very strong. Pulled back to support 144.42, ended up gapping up and rallying up 2%. Want to see this push up to the trend line here around 153.90, 154, somewhere in that area. Moving over to Amazon and Google here. Amazon getting the breakdown retest. You would expect more breakdown. Momentum still bearish. RSI still overbought. Looking for a retest of that SMA. It's very extended. So waiting to see what happens here. Again, breakdown, retest, breakdown is most likely in my opinion. And then looking at Google, very different thesis here. Broke out above this consolidation. Ended up taking this trade here. 0.47 to the upside. Looking for that 185.22 level. Want to see that touch. Momentum bullish. RSI still bullish. So getting the continuation here on Google still looks good. Moving over to staples and discretionaries. Staples holding up 0.11 on the day. Momentum back to bullish. RSI holding up, holding this 80.54 level. Seems like the staples are finally finding some support in here. We had the low, we touched the trend, rallied up, hit the upper level. Now we're holding a higher low here. I think if this starts to go, we could find some upward movement here on staples. So seems like the trade might be flipping to a little bit of risk off. You got discretionaries down 1.34. Very, very slight pullback. Support is that 215.06 level. That's the close from the Friday session. We're right at the trend here as well. After hours, it is below it. So momentum stepping down, volume stepping down, big volume on the selling candle. Seems like markets are just extended, looking for some pullbacks. Moving over to oil and gas and transports. Oil and gas did break out above the 200. I took this trade and I shouldn't have. Immediately rejected, broke the level 140.88. Momentum flat, RSI pulling back. We'll see how it goes. Right now, I do have an indicator here at 140.17. Right now, it's holding in there okay. We'll see how this plays tomorrow. It's probably going to go with markets and sell, which will be a bummer, but we'll see. And then looking at transports, in this same consolidation, also selling 1%. Still very much an uptrend, still looking for support here at 72.65. Momentum selling off, RSI stepping down. Either way, everything seems to be short-term pullback, at least for now. Moving over to RIOT and Marathon, both of these did okay. RIOT was down 3.5% or so, did get below the level after hours. During the session, it did hold up, but it just, again, seems extended, probably looking for the gap fill here. Similarly with Mara, it was positive on the day, but after hours, you can see we're at $23, so falling quite a bit there. We'll see how it plays out. Probably going to break down a little bit more. I was watching it here. Didn't end up taking that trade, so I got a little bit fortunate. Probably would have held that into the after hours, which would have been not so great considering how much lower it is after hours. So again, be cautious with these. They were very extended. Probably going to pull back a little bit here in the next day or two. Moving over to Breadth. Breadth did what we thought. We talked about how this was slowing. We started to get a little bit of a pullback. Momentum hasn't gone yet on the 20-day, but it probably will tomorrow. Probably going to pull back some more here. And then looking at 50-day, same thesis. Big gap down, big fall, broke some of these levels. Momentum stepping down, RSI stepping down. Probably going to hit the SMA. So we'll touch that level there and then get the continuation up, potentially. Probably look for that higher low. Either way, short term, slightly bearish, fits with the overall thesis of markets. Big rallies here, probably going to pull back a little bit. Moving over to the put call ratio here, I just wanted to highlight the move that we saw here yesterday and today. You can see we did touch the level. 0.63. That was the low yesterday. Usually when you see that, that's a bit of a bottoming formation for the put call ratio. Now we're starting to see that spike up towards that upper range. So that usually means a top in markets, and we're starting to see that bearishness come on. So see how it plays out. We got the spike here. Ended up being a bit of a bottom, got the rally, bit of a top. Now we're going to see what happens here. Either way, put call ratio signaling a bit of a top is in. Moving over to the dollar, this is incredible here. The dollar just continues to be an absolute rocket ship. From bottom to top, we're nearly up 6%. We talked about it here. We thought it was going to break, but this is way stronger than I would have even guessed. Thought we were going to see some strong moves, especially with this long consolidative down move that we saw, but markets not liking this strong dollar. Dollar continues to break, broke above my 105.5 level, pushing towards that 106.8. This continues to go. Equities are definitely going to suffer lower. We've talked about it a bunch of times. You can see the dollar topped out in here around 114. This was the bottom for markets. Then the dollar started to fall. Markets started to rally. Now the dollar is showing a lot of bullishness, continues to be super, super aggressive. And equities really haven't moved down quite yet. So we'll see how it plays out. Probably need to start to extend out these trend lines. Maybe we start to get a touch in here around 107. Either way, dollar still very bullish. Moving over to bonds, J&K did signal that down move, and it did get the continuation here today. Momentum stepping down, RSI stepping down. It's right at the level, 96.5. If it's going to hold, it needs to do it here. If it's going to break, 95.61 is probably your next level. TLT also going with it, not super great there, down 1.5%. We are still above the SMA here on the RSI, so maybe we end up holding in here, but we haven't touched it quite yet. You would expect a little bit more bearishness to come. Maybe 89.16 is the level. We haven't touched it quite yet. Brings you back to this consolidation range back from May up until around this end of May, beginning of June timeframe. You also have a consolidation just below the level here in April, so we'll see if that zone continues to be interesting. Last time that was a buying opportunity, and I do think that this time will also be a buying opportunity, at least for the medium to long term. Moving over to the VIX, you can see the VIX still at my level, 1470. Right there to the penny on the closing price. We touched it here Friday, bounced slightly, touching it again here. If it breaks, probably headed down to the 12 area. Momentum still bearish, RSI still bearish. So waiting to see what happens here. This is a zone of support and it hasn't broken yet, but it did close on the low and it doesn't look super great. Although I will say that obviously markets do look a little bit bearish, so maybe we do get a bounce from here, push back up into the 1850 area, reject from there, get the lower high, and then continue down. Potential scenario there, but right now we're at support, waiting to see if it breaks or not. Moving over to my accounts, I did lose a little bit of money on the day as markets were down. I had those puts, I rolled them out here pretty substantially a couple of days from now at 237. I'll be watching this closely. If it continues to break down, I'll just take these off. And then, like I said, I did like that XOP position, not working out super great for me, watching those closely tomorrow. Most likely I'll be taking those off. If markets continue to do what they're doing, hopefully we get a little bit of a pop in the morning. Maybe CPI helps out, but for right now, it does look a little bit bearish. Looking at the Qs, basically flat. Covered call helping out, but not all the way. This might sell off a little bit more. Still plenty of protection in here. Only sitting in $136 profit right now. And there's about $2,000 worth of extrinsic. So lots of potential protection if this continues to fall a little bit more. So should be in good position there. And then I did sell a Google put. Google rallied, made a little bit of money there. I'll watch that one closely tomorrow as well. I'm looking for that to touch the 185 area, and then we'll see what happens after that. Let me know down in the comment section what you thought of markets today. What positions do you have, and are you making adjustments based off today's price action, or is this just a short-term thing and you're expecting higher highs to come? Definitely let me know. Otherwise, like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.